We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education will tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this by chance, number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 of every 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Good evening, afternoon on the West Coast. Good afternoon I think it's evening, in the mountain. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Reparationist Perspective, bringing you those Freedmen, Badox, ADOS, hot topics, and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. And today, family, I got a comrade from way back in the gap. What's up, Terry Lewis? I see you, fam. Antonia Edwards, Freedmen for Solidarity, is in the building to talk about the puckery going on in Connecticut. Can you believe they received $100 million in COVID relief funds, and Freedmen have yet to receive much of anything? They've received next to nothing. So, Connecticut Black media and civil rights groups demand congressional investigations into COVID relief funds after the FBI arrested a Connecticut state representative in West Haven for allegedly stealing over $600,000 of COVID relief funds. Connecticut state elected officials revealed that little, if any, of the $100 million in COVID relief funds made it to the Black community. And so why should that matter to you, family? Well, if it's true of Connecticut, couldn't it also be true of where you living, of where you repping? Please know that if you're in Facebook or Twitter, I can't see you to acknowledge you, nor can I see your comments. So come on over to ScrewTube. The Reparationist Perspective is the name of the channel. If you'd like to be acknowledged and if you'd like to weigh in during this lofty discussion today about the puckery, it just keeps going on and on and on and on, family. I am so over it, but we can't afford to give in, up, or out. So fight we must. The new Black media is here to expose it, to get everybody politically up to speed so that you will understand the necessity for us to be on the right side of history, for us to continue to lean in. Yes, Terry, I said ScrewTube and Racebook. They keep coming for me, so I come up with these names for them. But anywho, we need to know what's going on, family. We must keep our heads on swivel. We are a towering inferno, individually and collectively. Thank you, Terry Lewis. Yes, like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. In order to get these reparations, we've got to buy into it collectively. We've got to move as a block because the only thing we've got left is our vote. They have neutralized us all the way economically. They have legislated us all the way to the bottom of this Titanic as its anchor. And so all we got left is the weaponization of our vote. And I'm going to share with you how in the end. Don't suppress your vote by staying home. Play chess with your vote. And we're going to talk about it because these Latinas have got it figured out, family. I see them. They're Democrats as long as they're making less than $50K a year. Once they're making $50K and greater, they switch the vote to the Republican Party, the Republican Party. So there's Democrats and Republican. And that's how it is. And so freedmen need their own strategy. And I'm going to share with you what that is. And y'all need to make that go viral. It will not be comfortable. It will not be popular, but it will be necessary. So let me bring up my illustrious guests without further ado. Miss Antonia Edwards and Miss Cynthia Jennings, family-esque. Oh yeah, she's an attorney. And we are going to talk all about the puckery going on in Connecticut, quite possibly the nation. When it comes to freedmen, I don't put it past none of them. Stand by. I'm bringing them up to the main stage. There are my lovely.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Miss Cynthia, can you say something to us?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I am pleased to be here.
I am pleased to have you, Sis Star. I thank you and Miss Antonia Edwards so much for being here. I'm not going to be so chatty because I was born to talk. So I'm going to mute my mic because I'm getting some feedback. And one at a time, starting with Miss Antonia and then Miss Cynthia, could you please introduce yourself and give a little bit about your background in today's topic? Thank you.
I'll let Miss Cynthia go first.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Cynthia Jennings, and I'm an attorney. I'm a civil rights attorney in Hartford, Connecticut. And I can honestly tell you that that we've had a lot of civil rights issues in Hartford, a great deal of them. And I really think that we're right in step with the rest of the nation. I'm not going to talk long. I'll let Antonia lead the way, and I'll follow suit with her. But I thank you, Angela, so much for having us on, and we're blessed to be here, and we're blessed to have you with us.
So hi, everybody. I'm Antonia Edwards. I am the co-founder of Solidarity, and I now changed it to Solidarity Black American Descendants of Chattel Slavery in solidarity with Freedmen. I really think it's important for us to acknowledge the Freedmen heritage and also classify ourselves as Freedmen, and also fall back and reactivate the Freedmen Act of 1965. I've learned so much about it, and so I really feel firmly that that's our way in. I've been doing this for years. I started out, learning the whole Reparations Act, Civil Rights Act, and also watched my grandmother fight through Jim Crow. So this is like really passionate in my heart. I teamed up with Mrs. Cynthia Jennings, who's a civil rights attorney here in Connecticut, because we found out that the communities weren't getting the funding that we thought that they needed. So we were trying to figure out what was going on, like why hasn't this money been released? We were at a meeting earlier in the summer in June. And that meeting was a community meeting for business owners. And Mr. Reggie Hales, he's the coordinator for all the businesses in Hartford, had this meeting, and he wanted to be proactive about things that we wanted in our community as far as business. And we just happened to invite, the state reps and also the senators. So in that conversation, I was like, so what's going on with the American Rescue Funds? Oh, we wrote a proposal. We gave it to the mayor. And I'm like, okay, do you have a copy of it? So they got upset and they left. So I kept saying to people in the community of Hartford, ask for that proposal, email, call, because I don't live in Hartford myself, but I do a lot of work there. So nobody was really listening. And so, Ms. Angela, if you don't mind showing the information that I sent you, there was a state rep here, Caucasian, who got caught minimally embezzling $600,000. He took the money, put it into a shell account, went to the casinos, and just splurged. So that's just the low-hanging fruit of the money that we know he did. So we're just very concerned that nobody's interacted with the community. Nobody asked the community what they needed. And this is COVID relief money, which is basically a gift. It's not the regular state funding. It's not the regular federal money, whatever. This is to help people out for what happened through this COVID pandemic last year. And what you'll find is, and if you don't mind playing the recording, if you can, Angela, we're just astonished at the answers that we got when we finally were able to speak to the state reps who represent the Black and Puerto Rican caucus here. And let me just explain to you, in Connecticut, nothing Black or Hispanic gets through unless you go through them. You can talk to the governor, lieutenant governor, anybody. They'll refer you to the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. So they appointed themselves gatekeepers to write the proposal for what the community needed with regards to the COVID relief funds. And me and Attorney Jennings was like really astounded to find out that they had made some serious misjudgments, miscalculations, bargained behind our backs, and ended up with zero.
So I can say this.
My apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt, Ms. Cynthia. It's telling me that recording, is that the one with Ms. Jennings doing the questioning?
Yes.
Is that the video you're referencing?
Yes.
For some reason, it's not available in Facebook now that I'm trying to see it again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Hold on one second. I'll try again. It says the content isn't available right now.
Okay.
When this happens, it's usually because the owner only shared it with a small group of people. Change,
okay.
You can see it, or it's been deleted.
Okay.
So if you can just share with me what happened in that video, that would be helpful, because I can't.
Okay. I'll let Miss Cynthia speak.
Okay. Well, one of the things I think is important that we know is that the money that's out there for Black and Latinos and other people, but especially when you're talking about Black people, we're the last to get anything. And that is why we do need reparations. And just what happened with the COVID money, I think Hartford had $100 million.
Yes.
And so far, the report from the legislature is that
she said 200 million.
300 million.
100
million. 100 million. That was for the COVID monies. All right. And we've actually gotten less than $1 million of it. And we're not sure whether or not we received that $1 million. So I think that it's imperative that we start looking nationally to find out what is going on with this money, because this money is disappearing in a heartbeat. And I doubt seriously if any of us are really going to get what we're expected to have out of that money. And the reason I think it's important that Black people get it is because 9 to 12 times as many Blacks are dying from COVID as whites are. Okay, I looked at the tracker that they had where they tracked how many people were dying. We are dying at a much higher rate. And a lot of it is, I'm also an environmentalist, and I've worked for years on trying to get them to stop incinerating our people, because 70 towns out of 169 towns burn their garbage in Hartford. And the children breathe that and the seniors breathe that, and they get, they've already got compromised lungs. So when COVID hits you, you're already done. Your lungs are already compromised. We have the highest asthma rate really in the country. And I think that we really have to pay attention to what's happening to our health and what's happening to our life, and recognize that the Native Americans were one time 100% of the country. Now they're less than 1/2%. And if you think that can't happen to us, look what COVID did. And
absolutely.
Look what violence is doing.
I thank you so much for that. I absolutely believe that it's not the COVID killing us as much as medical bias. I believe that being redlined into environmentally racist communities and tenement housing, as you mentioned, we've already have compromised health as a result. And in the very beginning, before they had enough COVID tests, they were literally sending us home to treat, and really with no idea of, or at least not sharing with us how to treat. The only thing they were telling us to do was to go home and self-quarantine. Now, when you go home to self-quarantine and you're in a lead-filled building, or the water has lead, or any other environmentally racist thing that's going on in your community or your housing, you're going home to get worse. You can't improve in those conditions. Furthermore, you cannot afford, since you've been economically neutralized, you cannot afford to go to a hotel or someplace to quarantine away from your family. So there ends up being a snowball effect, and everybody in the family could potentially get it. Also, when we show up to the hospitals, they were intubating us, over giving us the $5,000 a shot remdesivir that saved my nephew, who almost did not see his 32nd birthday. It saved his life. But a lot of these people that are young and dying from it in particular, it's because of medical bias. Now, with that being said, does somebody want to weigh in on that?
I will weigh in on that, because I understand that we are the victim of medical malpractice far more often than we believe we are. And in fact, when I went to law school, one of the things I specialized in was medical, or took a bunch of courses in, was medical malpractice, because medical malpractice had impacted me, my children, I mean, the whole family. So we have to recognize that medical malpractice is the reality. We also have to recognize that if our grandparents were here, we would have never died from COVID, because they would have cleaned us out. That virus would not have stayed inside of us. They would have given us a washout, an enema. They would have given us all kinds of home remedies that would have probably saved a lot of lives. And absolutely. In fact, 80% of the people that went to the hospital initially were dying because they didn't even know what to do with them. And then when they intubate you and start, pumping oxygen into your lungs, are you feeding that virus or not? The only thing, it's a deadly virus. The only thing that I would say is you better get it out of your body. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we have to recognize that home remedies are important, and our grandparents, we miss our grandparents. They're like 2 or 3 generations gone, and we no longer know how to take care of ourselves. They got rid of parasites, worms, anything you had, our grandparents got rid of it. Okay. And so for us to let a virus stay inside of us, we've lost the ability to clean that stuff out of our system.
Yes, we have, Miss Cynthia. And also, we don't have any patient advocates. You see, when my nephew showed up to the hospital, they didn't even want to give him a COVID test. If it wasn't for my baby sister, he'd have never got a test. And so when you don't have people who are educated going in there screaming up and down for you to do right by us, then you run the risk of dying from COVID. Secondly, once they gave her the test reluctantly, they sent him home to quarantine, where I've got my elderly mother, her husband, and my niece living in that same home. Well, my baby sister put him into a hotel, and if he didn't have access to a doctor who was monitoring his vitals every step of the way, which many of us don't have private physicians doing that, he would have surely died in that hotel. It was the doctor who monitored him daily that said, you've got to get him into the emergency room. She had to take him to the hospitals on the white side of town, which are known for killing us, allegedly. These are all my opinions. I must say that because ScrewTube looks for any reason to shut my videos down. And so it don't even matter if the topic is not related. They'll shut it down. But anywho, she took him to the white side of town. They admitted him immediately into the hospital and administered 5 days of remdesivir at $5,000 a shot. You're talking about $25,000. So when you're dealing with the people who are uninsured or underinsured, you're dealing with the people who are going to die disproportionate with the COVID because they don't have patient advocates. Furthermore, nobody's talking about prevention. Nobody's talking about eating healthy, hydration, working out, getting off the extra pounds, eating properly, and rest. Nobody talks about that. But that's been known to help you in the same way this alleged vaccine is supposed to.
Well,
because
the university
these can't thrive in a healthy body. Just like the vaccine doesn't promise that you won't catch the OVK. What they do is they promise that you will be able to overcome it 9 times out of 10. It doesn't promise that you won't die from it even. But it does say if you contract it, you will be able to fight it if you have the vaccine. Okay, now, but they don't talk about prevention and how that too creates a body that can fight OVK when it shows up.
Well, they had a study, the University of Chicago had a study, and they found out that the people that had died from COVID at the highest rates are the people with a vitamin D deficiency. Okay. And Dr. Fauci himself said on TV, they said, well, what do you take? What supplements do you take? Don't you do anything? And he said, well, I just take vitamin D and vitamin C. Never saying that the people with the highest death rate were the people who had a vitamin D deficiency. That would be us because our melanin screens out the sun and the vitamin D is in the sun. So we have to recognize that most of us have a vitamin D deficiency anyway. And if we do, we need to be supplementing because it can take you up to 6 months to build up your vitamin D levels. So we really need to pay attention to what we're doing and what's happening to our health.
Absolutely. And not just, just run to a man-made vaccine a big pharma-funded, FDA-approved in 9 months vaccine over just common sense, just looking at other natural ways to build the immune in order to combat this in the event it shows up in your experience, because it's my belief, me speaking, ScrewTube, it is my belief that this will become as common as a cold. This is this was created in the Wuhan, China lab. Okay. And so therefore there's this big push to just run to the vaccine over promoting a healthier immune with vitamin D and all manner of other supplements to keep the body strong. Doesn't mean you won't contract it, but you too will have an immune that can handle it. You will have, and then you'll have the antibodies in the event you do contract it. I know of people who did, like you said, Miss Cynthia, they actually had hot toddies. They stayed home, they quarantined and drank hot toddies, back to those old school remedies.
That's right.
Like the cod liver oils and things of this nature. But Antonia, did you want to weigh in before I move on to our topic at hand?
Yeah, everything you guys are saying has been devastating. I mean, I've lost 3 people in my family last year. I mean, and so, well, actually 4, 2 of them to COVID. And so we've lived this. I mean, I'm just really concerned that in our Black community that we've lost jobs. We've lost ability to have sustainable income. Some people still haven't gone back to work. Also, I'm really passionate and fight for people who want to go back to work, and some have gone back to work, but now they're being threatened that if you don't take this vaccine, you lose your job. And some companies aren't even offering weekly testing or whatever. So to me, it's just like, this is just to set us further back. And so when I talked to Miss, Jennings, I was like, listen, we really need reparations. But to me, this is just like out of control to the point where we are really going to be in a destitute state, I'm saying, in another year now, as far as being in the Black community. So she and I talked, and Miss Jennings, you can tell them. Let me just go back to what the video was all about. We had a Greater African American Alliance meeting and invited these particular people from the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, Senator McCrory, Brandon McGee, who's the state rep, and Joshua Hall, who's the state rep. And we really asked them questions. And the answers they gave us was just outlandish. So let me just clarify something. They received two amounts of $100 million. The first $100 million for Hartford, they automatically decide to let it go to the Hartford public school system. And that's like, oh, they're set up for life. However, Mr. McCrory oversees the Hartford public school system. So that's $100 million just for a public school system. The second $100 million, they thought they were going to get half of that. And so what we found out, and that's why it's really important that people watch this video. It's on my page. Angela, I'm quite sure you can put it on your page. They were negotiating with the city of Hartford, back and forth, back and forth. Why are we negotiating about money that was given for the community? And so what they ended up agreeing to or accepting was $22 million. And they still haven't gotten that yet. And so in the conversation, one of the state reps said, listen, we told them, we have been covering you guys. We just gave you guys $50 billion from another PAC. You all need to do this for us because we really need it. So we found out that this has been going on for years. And so Hartford has this reputation of being destituted, ghetto, people not thriving. However, this conversation brought out why. Because the politicians and the Black ones that were supposed to be fighting on their behalf have been making backdoor deals and giving up money. Anytime there was money meant for the underserved community or Black and brown, that went to the state or the city to bail them out. So now this other $100 million, that was received, they should have received all of it. They thought they were getting half, and they're sitting there begging and fighting for $20 million and didn't get that. So this is sick. It's sick in the sense of...
It just feels to me like immigration and whiteness is being weaponized against us to extend us to as few in number as the Indians.
Right.
My question to you is, how do we fight when we've been neutralized economically? How do we fight when we don't even realize it's going on? They've got us so busy working gig jobs, even our college degrees, that all we can do is fight to keep the roof over our family head. By the time we get to politics, folks are worn out. I know the few of us that are in this fight, get battle fatigue because it is constant. The minute we think we can just focus on getting reparations, we realize there are more immediate fires to put out. We realize that we have been voting blue, no matter damn who, since FDR, and we are a median national income of $30,000 with a median national home price of $400,000. We realize that we are the most unemployed, underemployed, and the highest rates of homelessness and homeless Black families. Like, these are 100-year plans since they passed the Immigration Act. These white glacier donkeys do not stop. They're always, their plans are 100 to 150 years old to extinct us. And so my question to you is, how do we fight this if we don't have the money?
Okay, can I just say something? I'll let you go first because I have something.
Okay.
Go on, Miss Cynthia.
Okay, can I weigh in on that? One of the things that we have to recognize is that the reason we're endangered is because we are now in the majority. That is why the reaction of people losing elections and stealing elections and trying to take away our right to vote, it's because the 35 years ago when we were begging for affirmative action, and my position was, we don't need affirmative action. We just need keep sending us home, and we're going to just keep having more babies. And in 35 years, we'll be in the majority. And we are in the majority, but we have to recognize it and understand power. And the power is in the vote. And the power is also, if you have people that are not representing you, run against them. I did that 30 years ago. And let me tell you, the Democratic Party walked me politely out and put me under punishment for 17 years. They would not allow me into that party in any significant way because I ran against somebody white who supported allowing them to continue to dump low-level radioactive waste in a landfill that I live near. And I'm like, you're not going to do that here. And we as Black women have the "you're not going to do that here" gene in our body. We are not going to allow people to do something to us or our children that's going to cause harm. And so that's why it's important that Black women come together. And we did an open letter to our congressional representatives in Connecticut, every one of them. And I don't know if I haven't seen a reaction or response, and I'm the agent for service, so I should get the letter first. And they have not responded yet. But on February 12th, if they don't respond to us, we're going to start the Connecticut Black Women's Congress, and we're going to have open enrollment of anybody with no fee to join, okay? So women of conscience can come together, run for office, make decisions, and to conduct our own investigations of our elected officials who are elected to represent us and protect our money. And we're going to make sure that we are going to run that state. I don't care how you do it. So if our elected officials do not want to come and respond to our open letter to look into this COVID money that's being stolen from us, because of $600,000 was stolen, at least 1/3 of that was ours. Okay. And so you're going to steal our money and think you're going to get away with it. Well, you're not. And there are enough Black women who are going to stand up and say, you're not doing that here. I did that with the landfill. I said, you're not gonna expand that landfill here. You already have taken care of it. It smells awful. Trust me, by myself. And I pulled together some people to work with me, especially when they started threatening my life, because the first thing they're gonna do is threaten your life and try and invoke fear into you. And the bottom line is, you can't scare me because I'm not scared to die. I'm scared to live near a landfill that has radioactive waste in it. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and die and be unhealthy in Hartford. Okay, so bottom line is we just have to put on our "it's not going to happen here, you're not going to do that to us" hat and mean it. So that's how I feel about how are we going to deal with it. We're going to stop them and we're going to understand power.
So for me, I totally agree with Mrs. Jennings is saying, and she's absolutely right. She is a warrior. I know her past. I've read her dossier. I wouldn't be with her, and I wouldn't even consider her to be a mentor or a matriarch if I wasn't, because everybody knows my work. I fight really hard, and I really take my hats off to her. I'm on a whole other level. I'm on to empowering our people. Everybody's sitting back waiting to look for another leader. Oh, we need Black leaders. We need Black leaders. We need somebody like Martin Luther King. And I'm trying to empower people to say, you are your own leader. You don't need a leader. You don't need an icon. You're your own leader. So for the last 55 years, we've been waiting for a leader, and we just rocked ourselves to sleep. We're in a catatonic state. We need to wake up. It doesn't cost anything to research. It doesn't cost anything to read. It doesn't cost anything to learn your community, your environment, and learn what's going on. And it doesn't cost anything to attend a meeting. You don't have to, these meetings are once a month. You know what I'm saying? And we as Black people have this thing that we don't participate in what's going on in our community, and they bank on it. When we ask these politicians, why didn't you come to the community? Why didn't you come to the 2 Black organizations in Hartford, the Great American, Great Hartford NAACP, and the Great American African American Alliance? And they were just dumbfaced because they didn't have to. They felt that I can talk to these like certain Black organizations that we're friends of. We can put their projects first, and we talk to the community, because the community doesn't speak up. They don't complain. They don't say anything. But this stuff does not happen in white communities. There's no way in the world a pool of money will come to any white community and people in the community don't have a say as how that money's being dispersed. So I myself beg people, read, get involved, understand your history, understand your politics where you live at. Get involved. It doesn't cost anything to make a phone call. It doesn't cost anything to send an email. And when we ask people to do that, people don't do it. And so that's why stuff like this happens, because they bank on the fact that we're asleep.
But you know what? If we if we sit and wait for somebody else to do it, it's not going to get done. Just like that landfill. Everybody was scared to jump into the landfill because that was that was the mob. So you don't mess with the mob's money. And guess what? I did. And yes, they did threaten my life. They threatened to run me off the road with a garbage truck and rearrange my face. And I told them, I said, let me tell you one thing, Deep Throat. If you run me off the road with a garbage truck, you better back that truck up. You better make sure I'm dead. You better not let me live, okay? Because you're not going to kill me off and think you're going to kill my children off too. And I really believe that children should not be killing and dying in the streets and killing each other off with violence. The parents should be in the streets making sure that their children's legacy is protected, making sure that they have a decent education and a place to live, making sure we have home ownership opportunities, or you won't be in office. And to this day, I will run against anyone that thinks they're going to get in office and sell me out.
And then another thing too is you're saying, I just want to make sure it's clear. We really need Black men's representation. You know what I'm saying? And I really would like to see Black men back in the community being leaders, being role models. I mean, I don't want anybody to think that I just speak to only Black women. I speak to everybody. And so I just feel like we need to unite. I sit online on Facebook and see all the ridiculousness. We spend days talking about celebrities and men and women and how they don't get along, whatever, but we don't even focus that much attention on what's going on around us.
And that may be true, but when you're dealing with Black men, it's like ham and eggs. Okay, the chicken is involved, but the ham is committed. The pig is committed. Okay. So when you put Black men out on the front line, they're going to get shot down. They're going to get killed. And the only people who can get on that front line right now, not safely, but get on it and stay on it, are the women. Because if you shoot a Black woman, you take a Black woman away from her family, Black men are going to take you out. I mean, they lose it. Okay. And so I firmly, when I got my life threatened, I went straight to a Black man and said, let me tell you one thing, they're about to threaten, they're about to kill me when they run me off the road with the garbage truck and rearrange my face. I said, you know what? And he said, let's do this. And he was a strategist. He said, we'll have a huge landfill forum. We're going to invite all the like EPA and the Justice Department showed up because they thought there was going to be a war in Hartford. And he never, ever backed down. But he eventually died not too long ago. And because he had too much on his shoulders. So if we don't pick up the reins and fight for our community and fight for our children, our Black men will be there. Trust me when I tell you, my father would be there, my brothers would be there, my friends would be there. I know that Black men support me. All right. And I never, ever lose the understanding that when you're a woman of power, you're always going to have a bunch of men around you.
And so that's what I want to convey. I want to convey to Black men who are listening, it's a joint venture. I want us to unite. I want us to put aside all this gender division, whatever. We really need all hands on deck right now. Everybody needs to join forces to fight. Not only do we have the illegal immigrants at the border getting ready to get $450 million or $450,000 per each person, we have the Afghans. Right here in Connecticut, our own governor is begging landlords to provide housing for immigrants, for these Afghan immigrants, saying, I know they're a risk. I know they don't have a job. They don't have money. We're back them. They're taking the COVID relief money for rental assistance that belongs to the citizens in Connecticut and giving it to the Afghans. If I was to go out right now and look for an apartment, I would have to have 3 times the monthly rent and income. I would have to have 3 times the monthly rent and security in first month. I would have to have a clear background. So if I have to have all that stuff, why is the government here begging landlords to take a hit? They're like, I know it's a risk, but please work with them. So what I'm saying is we're being removed. We're being removed twice right in our face. The illegal immigrants and also with the Afghans. We have got to wake up and we have got to start fighting for ourselves. So what I like to do is I have Miss Cynthia explain the process that we went through to file this complaint. I'm saying, and how it works. It's not even complicated. You just got to agree to do it and you have to unite.
Okay, I want to slow the conversation down a little bit. Don't forget the question, however. I want to find out, how do we learn what you guys came to know? Where do the people start to find? Because all they know is that we're struggling. We're unemployed, we're underemployed, and we're losing housing because now this government pretends to not know that we're not the ones being hired. They pretend not to know that our affirmative action is used to gainfully employ white women, white men through LGBTQIA, and immigrants. They're acting like the job market is open and available. They're acting like there's tons of jobs that we just don't want to work because why? Many of our people, sadly, were making more on unemployment insurance and the pandemic money. They were making more on that than they were at their actual jobs. So now they're starting this rumor about the hardest working people in the entire world. They're conveniently putting a rumor out there that we don't want to work to justify bringing in flooding the country with illegals and flooding the country with refugees.
Let me
like
just say this.
Let me finish this one thought. Don't lose your thought, Miss Cynthia.
Okay.
So they're flooding the country and weaponizing immigration against us because capitalism needs a bottom caste. And their 100-year plans decided long ago that we as freedmen and women and children are that bottom caste. And Dr. Claude Anderson told us about this occurrence 30 years ago. He's been screaming this for 30 years, and yet we're still talking about this very thing. So back to my original question, how do we find out how much our states have received? I know I do a Google, but how much your city has received and whether or not it's benefited you?
Okay, so let me talk about that because I think Antonia talked about what process we went by. First of all, we came up with an open letter to every single congressperson in our state that talked about where is our money? What happened to the COVID money? We call for a congressional investigation into the COVID monies. Every single state, every single Black person that's registered has voted to elect a congressional representative. All politics is local. We call in those congressional representatives that we elected that represent us, and we call for a congressional investigation into what's going on in our state.
Don't lose your thought, but I want to know how you found out that you weren't getting the funds. Can we start there?
Yes, because they caught they caught a state representative stealing $600,000, and he's under FBI investigation. And we piggybacked on that and said, oh, no, some of that was our money. You're going to investigate what's happening with our money.
So
and also nothing changed. Nothing changed. And also nothing changed.
Okay,
this money's been here.
Let me stop you there. If we don't have a scandal, but our conditions haven't improved, we research how much our city and state has received and try to tie it back to what? The spending? Do we look at a budget, how the money was allocated? That's what I need to know.
What we're doing is having our elected Congress people tell us how much money did you send to our state from Washington? That's an easy question for them to answer. You can even Google that. They can tell you, but you want them to answer that question because then you want to ask the question, who did you send it to? And what did they do with that money? I mean, it's like Watergate. You follow the money and find out where is our money? What happened to the Black community? What money did we get? There was a $30 million grant about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago where the mayor took our money that was supposed to go into the promise zone and gave it to the children's hospital. Sounds noble enough, but I'm like, you gave $30 million to the children's hospital that was targeted for the Black community, and we're the ones who suffered the most to get that money allocated to our state. So yes, you've got to, you really, if you don't have a scandal, you still have your elected congressional representatives. You ask them in some kind of public forum to come together and tell you how much money was sent to your city or your state and how much, and who did they send it to, and what did they do with it? It's a simple question.
And then also to piggyback off that, because we had pressured our Greater Hartford African American Alliance to come together, they brought the state reps who represent the Black and Puerto Rican caucus because they knew we had done this press conference. So then they now wanted to talk to us, but they had been avoiding us all this year. They were avoiding us like the plague. So now they want to come talk to us, but they want to come talk to us because they've already messed it up. So you can ask your state reps and your senators.
Their money, they didn't get their money. That's part of the problem. And their friends didn't get their money. So now they know they've been hoodwinked they got played so bad. It's sad. If you really listen to the recording, it was just ridiculous how they allowed themselves to be played. So you can start, like Miss Cynthia said, the congressional people that you put in office, they actually have an office in your local area, and they also sit in DC. But then you can start at the state reps and the senators that you elect to represent your district and ask them for a meeting. Show me the proposal, show me the budget, explain it to me, show me where all that money came into our city or our town or whatever, and explain to me how it was spent. Yep. And the bottom line is, where's our money? Just like with reparation, where's our money?
Well, that's another question I have. And then we'll go back to Antonia's, I guess that's what we're discussing now. The solution, which I love to give shows with solutions. There's another thing I want to ask for you, Miss Cynthia, since having you on our Fix HR 40 call. Thank you both for showing up. We so appreciated having your input, and we look forward to the next time we meet again. But what dawned on me, and I see a son Powell, the great Miss Powell, I see the great Miss Shirley Huzard, I see Najee. Oh my word, the family is in the building. LD Ward, I see you, fam. I had to acknowledge my people. Listen, if you're in Facebook or Twitter, I can't see you to acknowledge you, nor can I see your chat. You'll have to come over to ScrewTube and look up the Reparationist Perspective to catch us going live so you can weigh into the discussion. And we'll get to your questions and your comments momentarily, family. I haven't forgotten you. But I wanted to ask you, since that call, about this $450,000 per illegal criminal. Okay. First of all, let's talk about how the families being separated at the border. And I'm going to do another story about this. Let's talk about how these Mexicans send their kids across the border on purpose, to have that be the catalyst for them entering the country illegally. Let's start there, as folks are sitting up here, in particular the Democrats, and I've got my voting strategy. I don't believe we should stay home. I'm going to share with you about that towards the close of the show, which will be in about 10, 15 minutes. But I want to talk about how that happens first. And then all of this being separated at the border, and all of these flights taking these illegals out the country, all started first under Barack Obama. Let's start there. As this fake outrage by the Biden administration ensues to try and justify, well, the ACLU is suing the federal government. I think $450,000 apiece should remedy the situation. Do you see? So you're continuing to take our reparations, because this is what I cannot stand about this country. I am not a xenophobe. I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm anti the weaponization of immigration against freedmen to tether us to the bottom. As the anchor of this country's capitalism. I'm almost done with my rant. But my question is, this is the albatross around our necks. This is not the albatross around the necks of white folks who have killed and stolen all of the wealth that our ancestors built. They generated that wealth. That was the seed. They were the return on that investment that is now morphed into hundreds of trillions for immigrants and white folks to share into. that our ancestors paid with their lives. There is no way we should be in a race to the bottom as the freedmen of the descendants of the ancestors' heinous chattel slavery, the worst of its kind known to the free world. So while I'm not a xenophobe, I am not for this country using our reparations to make these folks white. And because the color of white in this country is green, they're giving all of our repair away while telling us they have no money for the quadrillions they owe us over multi-generations, because slavery is reparations is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. So how do we, since they said we couldn't sue the federal government, yet the illegals are suing the federal government with the help of the very ACLU, how in the world can we as freedmen go back and collect on what's already been legislated, what's already in the Constitution, what's already owed to us from what Abe Lincoln wrote, from Sherman back in the gap, when we won the Civil War, when we beat the Confederates? How do we weaponize that to open up our own claim to go and get these reparations? I'll take a breath.
So that's why I love Ms. Jennings, because she is so astute. So when she told me what her thoughts were, I'm like, you have to join us. You have to tell these people what you're saying. So can you just tell them what your thought process is, Ms. Jennings?
Okay.
I mean, it's
my
a lot of
process is that there's only one legal group in this country, and that's the Native American Indians. Everybody else is an illegal immigrant. Okay. We were brought here against our wishes, but everyone else came through Ellis Island. They came through and they are here illegally. Okay. So you have to recognize that the only legal people here are the Native American Indians. Okay. They own this land. They were here and they were taken off the land. And there's nothing being used. This is still divide and conquer. Divide us against the Mexicans, divide us against all the so-called immigrants. Okay. Instead of, if we ever united with them, they give them the vote, then that they're our friend, and we need them to take over the system. That's it. I mean, we really need to make sure that we don't fall into fighting with someone over something we don't have access to right now. And when we get the votes, we can run the country, and we can get the money that we want to get. Okay, if it's not all gone by the time we get in power, which it probably will be. But the bottom line is that also, when you're talking about $450,000 to someone who's had their children taken away, who's come across the border, let me tell you one thing. I'm a civil rights lawyer. The only way you can win a civil rights case is to have what's called a comparator, someone you can compare yourself to that has the same or similar situation to you, that has gotten preferable treatment or more, better treatment than you've gotten. Our comparator is those people they're talking about $450,000 to. Because if you're going to give them $450,000, we've had our children taken away too. We've lost our sons and daughters. We've lost our husbands. You owe us $450,000 as well, so that we can bring our own civil rights claim, because this is what you're going to give to them. Well, that we have had the same situation and we're demanding the same thing, equity. Okay. So we need to be, aware that they have their attorneys at the White House talking to the government attorneys. We need to have ours talking to them as well. You give them $450,000, you're going to give it to us as well. So
I think
so my thing is, I'm calling to, where's all the Black attorneys? Where's all the Black civil rights lawyers? I mean, these people were able to get the ACLU to back them. And they've been talking for a while, by the way. This just didn't happen overnight. How come our Black attorneys aren't teaming up together to join to fight this cause? I'm saying, and so that's why I take my hats off to Miss Cynthia, because she's very vocal. She's very serious about it. And she's, I'm sorry.
Finish.
And so for her, I'm saying, to want to fight this cause, she can't do it by herself. So every state...
We do need to do it, and we do need to pull the ACLU's coat and tell them. Let me tell you one thing: If you're going to fight for them, and we've been Africans in this country for God knows how long, we expect you to take our fight as well to the government and get our reparations. And as soon as we say the word reparations, all of a sudden, no, we're not going to pay you for what we took from you. Well, you know what? If you pay them, you're going to pay us. And it's that simple, because, and that makes it much easier for us to win our case, because you've already engaged in giving someone $450,000 for admitting that what you did to their children was wrong. Look at what they've done to us: mass incarceration, longer extended, prison terms. I mean, there's so many things that they've done to us that are similar to what they've done to those people who came across the border. Okay. But they feel like they could get away with it. Now it's an international issue. That's why they're getting concerned about it. So I think that we need to make it our issue.
Well, I do have to state this, because I hear this, gesture of trying to make nice with the immigrants. First of all, and I respectfully say this, Ms. Jennings, but I do believe that it is in this what's the word I'm looking for? In trying to act as if we're all the same, that Black is all the same, that immigrants have it as bad as us, is why we are in the fight of our lives to prevent extinction. I believe that if these groups were really about our plight, that they would be in this fight, lock and step alongside us. It just dawned on me, Miss Cynthia, that these Latinos, like I said at the top of the show, these Latinos and these immigrants, as long as they're poor, they're going to vote Democratic. As soon as our reparations is given to them in the form of all these resettlement payments and the whole 9 yards, as soon as they're able to come up into our communities and gentrify our communities and own the small businesses that we can't even get loans to. Barack Obama gave us about 1% of SBA lending, less than Bush, his cousin, who gave around 6%. So it's in all of us carrying everyone on the tit. Excuse me respectfully, I speak in like creative ways over here. It's been in us being as concerned about all these other groups as to why we collectively are on the bottom. You're looking at them sharing in hundreds of trillions of dollars, while 90% of freedmen share less than 700 billion. Mm-hmm. While folks want to act like if we would just put the 40 ounces down, if we would just stop doing our nails, if we would just stop weaving our hair, that this would close an over $100 trillion egregious racial wealth gap. Now, I'm here to say that if we don't get selfish when it comes to freedmen, we are done. We will be facing numbers as minimal as the Native Americans. Furthermore, yes, we're different. We are not the same, even in Blackness. I have shared with you guys on this show that a 2014 Color of Wealth LA report showed Nigerians 300 times more liquid than freedmen. We have been driven out of existence down here to less than 5% since COVID, when we were neck and neck with whites before the Immigration Act. So forgive me if I appear to be xenophobic, whatever you want to call me, but I don't believe in wasting time and energy when people have been over here since the 65 Immigration Act and haven't stood up collectively with us. We are in this on our own. We have no friends. The CBC has the unmitigated gall to be working on their behalf over the atrocities and the Holocaust that is still ongoing for freedmen. So over here, that's who I fight for. I don't need them to show up or pretend to show up in the 11th hour, because they made it clear that they're looking out for their own interest. And you can see it in the voting patterns. Just look at the data. When they're under 50,000, they're Democrats. When they're over 50,000, they become Republicans. And I am imploring upon us to weaponize our vote in the same way. Dr. Charles Morris, let me finish, pastor of Abyssinian Church, said that after we delivered Teddy Roosevelt the White House, that he dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers who were wrongfully accused of murdering a second white man after being quarantined in their barracks for being wrongfully accused of murdering the first. Dr. Charles Morris said, "You shot us when our guns were empty, and for that we're going to return the same by delivering a blue top of the ticket," this is when we were Republicans, "and a red Congress to protect the Black South. If we don't weaponize this vote by voting a red top of the ticket and a blue Congress come 2024 and a red Congress while the top is blue and we can't do anything about it, we are finished, because a trifecta of either party is the death knell for Freedmen." I'll take a breath.
All right, listen, when you talk about weaponizing your vote, you're right up my alley. We better weaponize our vote, but not only weaponize our vote, we better run against whoever is in our district, and we better run against them in mass, because that means that the more people we run against, the more likely we are to take over the system that's actually oppressing us and killing us. So it's important that we not just vote, but that we work, that we run for office, and that we take over those systems that are detrimental to not just to ourselves, but our children and grandchildren.
I agree. But my thing is this. We need one of two things, and we have neither right now. We need critical mass in this fight. We need critical to move as a block on the weaponization of the vote, the chess. I've been imploring since I joined the movement after Kamala threw her hat in the ring on Howard's campus during Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then in the next breath said she was not doing anything for Black folks. She will not do anything for Black folks specifically, no, while clutching her invisible pearls. And yet Biden can put 2 million Black men in jail. They can bring in the war on drugs, the war on poverty, and 87% of our electorate, deliver them the White House because of the overt racist Trump. This is why talking about putting us in spaces to run for office is almost a joke, because we're putting the cart before the horse when we don't have the money to come up against the two-party system, the two-party oligarchical system. So we need to chew this elephant one bite at a time. Right now, my space in the new Black media is to educate us about what we are owed. We can't even get critical mass to agree on that. You got Black folks fighting against their own interest, not even supporting and believing in the work that is never ending for the movements that have broken out since the former ADOS movement. You got us working day and night, and we still can't get enough momentum. So if we can't get collective belief in our right to have the reparations we are long overdue, if we can't get critical mass on that, how in the world do we get full-chested cash reparationists to run for office as they continue to use the reparations against us on refugees and immigrants who are now taking over in every office all throughout the country, and they don't give a damn about us. They are here to replace us. So how, with no money, do we compete with the two-party oligarch system? You saw Nina Turner in Cleveland get decimated by Chantel Brown within 2 weeks because of that Democratic money that supported her, because she, although Freedmen, works for the establishment. How do we do that?
See, for me, let me just explain something to you. For me, I understand everything's about being full-chested and you need money to run whatever, but we got to be willing to educate ourselves and unite first. That's where I'm coming from. We have got to stop all this infighting, all this community violence, all this back and forth bashing each other. This is like eyes wide shut. Wake up. All this stuff is going on right around us, and like we just said, we're going to be almost obsolete because we're not paying attention. We're not researching. We're not uniting. So that's where I'm coming from. But you're absolutely right about everything else. However, my plea, again, is for people to wake up and to unite, research, read, join the movements that are there. It's not about personalities. This is business. If we don't get together and if we don't unite and we don't fight for ourselves, nobody is coming to save us, even Jesus. So we're on our own right now, and that's what we need to do. We need to do a national fight because the deck is stacked against us. And the reason why me and Ms. Jennings are coming here to tell the story about the local American Rescue Fund, it's a setup, it's a design. We're not going to be compensated, or we're not going to be looked out for on a local level, and some people are going to miss it. We almost missed it. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying to you is you got to start thinking, you got to start preparing, we got to start uniting. We have got to fight for ourselves. And for me, because I'm stilettos to the ground every single day, I need people to pay attention. I fight in communities I don't even live in. Mm-hmm. And this stuff happened in Hartford. I don't live in Hartford, but I can tell you everything about Hartford inside out. And I fight every day. And I'm tired of talking to people who don't want to listen, who don't want to pay attention, who don't want to fight for themselves. And I keep saying to people, we don't need a leader. We don't need anybody to lead you. You lead yourself. You fight for yourself. And that's all I'm saying. And yes, when it comes to work for campaigning and fighting for those seats, yes, we do need chess. But right now we need to be educated. We need to understand what's going on in our own backyards. And then you build from that.
We absolutely do. I was just sharing that it's very difficult for us to run for office when we're in a towering inferno, when we have been integrated into a towering inferno. Let me go to Shirley Huzar. She says the Native Americans have been compensated in so many ways for that. Even today, there are Blacks who have Native American bloodline in them who aren't getting paid. She's absolutely right.
Well, first of all, let me just explain something to you. First of all, we can't even claim our white status. My grandfather's half white. And we have nothing but Indian in our family. We, as Black people, were never allowed to claim our Native American or white heritage. So that's nothing new. That's nothing new. But they allowed $5 Indians. White people could pay $5 to be an Indian. Elizabeth Warren's family is one of them. So that's nothing new, Mr. That's been going on. I have my DNA. I have my heritage. And I know my grandfather and I know my mother. They are half white. And trust me, I've never been able to claim that and also their Native American heritage.
Right, but into that atrocity, they are now, they're making Latinas white, the Cubans white, okay? Pretty soon, Africans with money will be able to identify as white because, like I said, the color of white in this country is now green. And everybody works for the money. They're working, and this is what you guys fail to understand. Capitalism needs a bottom caste. Somebody has got to trade places with us as long as we're under a capitalistic system. And so it doesn't matter the good, heartfelt intentions of people. Nobody wants that bottom. And I especially don't, which is why I fight. So Shirley is responding to Miss Cynthia Jennings. She's responding to her saying about, the other groups, I think, having been injured. And yes, while that is true, understand the Indians also owned us. Okay. And yet she is absolutely right. You just got the Cherokee Indian, Black descendants of Cherokee Indian enslavement are now able to identify as Cherokee. They've been fighting for that right, and they still have not received those benefits that these Native American Indian, Cherokee, Seminole alike, okay, they descend from their enslavement, and they denied them the right to identify as Cherokee and Seminole so they could deny them their reparations. Since the early 1800s, this is already in the Constitution, and they continue to get money from the government. They chose, which we should have chosen, to be sovereign, okay? So they've got their own space, they run their own education, and don't have to be under the oppressive boot of the very white folks we chose to integrate with, Okay. And there's still to this day, even though the Cherokees won on a federal level, the black Cherokee Indian slave descendants, even though they now won on a federal level to be able to identify as Cherokee, the Cherokee Indian refuses to give them their reparations to this day.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I can't see her second comment. Is she talking about other races that were injured?
Okay, I'm going down. I'm scrolling and flashing it on the screen. Okay. So Shirley says, I have talked to attorneys who work with Native American tribes. They have.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Why are we talking about Native Americans? See, this is what bothers me, and I'm gonna stop it right now. I don't want to talk about the injuries or the atrocities for any other race. This is about Black American descendants of chattel slavery and freedmen. And see, this is the problem. Everybody always talks about another group's atrocities, plight, or either injuries, whatever. You could never do that to a Jewish person. You can never talk about the Black plight when it comes to the Jewish Holocaust. But no, this is her third question about it. Can we move on? Because she is overshadowing our point by talking. But this is her third question, and she's overshadowing it, talking about the Native Americans. We need to talk about something else.
Antonia, she's only.
But this is her third statement about Native Americans.
I'm going back to read the comments. This is what I do on my show.
Right. I understand that.
Because let me help you. They're responding to comments prior to me reading and addressing them.
I got that. But what I'm saying to you is this is the second or third comment about the Native Americans. Can we talk about another comment about the show? We don't want to talk about the Native Americans. We don't want to talk about other people's plights. We want to talk about freedmen. We want to talk about Black American descendants of slavery. People have this history of overshadowing us, talking about other people's plights. And it's very disrespectful.
Well, I don't believe
this show is about Black American descendants of slavery and freedmen.
I believe that what she's sharing is very insightful to juxtapose what has happened for the Native Americans and for the other groups as a byproduct of the conversation and the exchange we just had. I believe her comments are important, and I'd like to read and respect my co-host, the audience. That's how I do it over here. So if you could just bear with, she's actually talking about what they've received in comparison to what we have yet to receive.
And we already know that. We know that the Native Americans received.
Can I make a statement about a clarification about a statement that I made? Because I think that Mrs. Hussar is referring to what I said. But what I said was that Native Americans used to be 100% of this country. Now they're down to half of 1%. And if you don't think that can happen to Black Americans, trust me, it can and is. COVID almost wiped us totally out. Okay. So I'm saying that we have to be aware of what's happened to others so that we don't allow that to happen to us. And we do have to be protectionist about Black Americans, because if we aren't, no one else is. So we must look out for ourselves. But that's why
Absolutely.
I said every one of us has to do what we have to do to protect our families, our communities, our cities, and our future generations, our children and grandchildren, or we won't have them.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. But Antonia, also, you and we may know these things. Not everybody watching throughout the country and the world know these things. So
okay, Angela, can I ask you a question? Sure. What other person doesn't know that Black people didn't receive reparations? Let's be real. Let's just get real. The reason why I'm saying this is but what I'm saying, Angela, what I'm saying is you cannot do this to any other group. Can you imagine us sitting on a call about the Jewish Holocaust and we talking about Black reparations? I'm just saying it's overkill. She already made one statement about the Native Americans. That's fine. Let's talk about Black descendants of slavery and the freedmen. This is what this is about. I go through this all the time when people come and they want to talk about other races, you know what I'm saying? They applied and they were injured. Okay, we suffered 250 years of enslavement in this country and 400 plus years of systematic racism and oppression. Let's talk about that. That's all I want to talk about.
Okay, first of all, and I get it, and I get what you're saying, but Miss Shirley Hussar is a freedman who's been in this fight for a long time. She's not,
and that's fine.
She's not defending Native Americans. She's speaking in a context in which she's sharing with the audience through her comments about what they've received, the protections they've received. It's not.
We know that.
You know it.
Okay.
You know it.
Angela, all I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying, research, look it up. The bottom line is this show was about how they manipulated the American Rescue Funds, how we found it out in our city and state, how we want other people to look out for that, how we want to also fight for Black reparations. We don't want to sit on the phone and on a call on the show and talk about everybody and their mother knows that the Native Americans got reservations. All the reservations up here have casinos. We know that they have the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We know that the Indians were taken care of, but how many people can tell us actually what's been done about Black American descendants of slavery and freedmen, and how many people are fighting for those reparations? That's what this is all about.
Okay.
We don't need a history lesson on the Native Americans. I'm sorry if I sound irritated, but we do this all the time. You were just talking about how you didn't want to have sympathy and join forces with other racial groups. We're doing that right now, talking about the Native Americans. We don't need to talk about the Native Americans. We need to talk about Black American descendants of chattel slavery and freedmen. We don't need to lend any sympathy, any time or attention to any other group right now. That's all I'm saying. You just said it yourself.
I said it myself, but I understand the context in which she's raising the comments. So with that being said, we're at 4:17. I thank you guys so much for being on to talk about this very important issue. I'll continue to chat with my audience after gracefully excusing you guys from the platform. And I thank you so very, very much for.
Thank you so much. We thank you. We really do. We just want to get the message out, and we want the people to know what we uncovered. We want them to have the opportunity to do the same thing. The money's not there. There's another thing too we want to bring out. They're repurposing the money, which means is they get the COVID money, they spend it on what they want to, and to make it look good, they send the money back to the federal government saying there's no more COVID relief fund needed. And so then they ask for the money for other reasons. And they did that here in our state. And there's no reason why COVID relief money is not needed in any state or town or city. So that's what they're doing too. So if you hear the word repurpose, that means they sent the money back to make it look like, oh, we're doing you a favor. We didn't abuse the money. We don't need it for this. But in our state, actually, they use it to pay police overtime by police body cams. And also there was to hire outside contractors from other states. They repurposed the COVID money for that. So we want people to be aware of what's going on and why people aren't getting the kind of support they need in their community for the things and the conditions that they were complaining about before COVID. COVID only unveiled it. It would already exist. So if your city or state or town doesn't look any different, the funding's not there, this is the reason why. The money's being manipulated. It's like a 5-card Marley game or the shell game. They're shuffling money around and it's just ridiculous. And people can't keep up. And the only way you're going to be able to keep up is to ask for that documentation. So I thank everybody for listening.
Let's get on to the ACLU and tell them we expect to have their support in getting our $450,000 for what they did to our families and our children. Okay, so we really need to start working with the ACLU right away, and we need to keep our eye on that COVID money. You and that probably will be all we get a chance to do is look at it, because they sure as heck aren't putting it on in our communities. But Angela, thank you so much. We really appreciate your opportunity to talk to us.
We really appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you for everybody for listening.
And I appreciate you guys as well. I look forward to chatting with you ladies again, especially about going after the ACLU.
Yes.
And I also need to know real quick before you go, Ms. Jennings, how do we fight, and you too, Antonia, how do we fight for accountability for the COVID relief monies? Who do we turn to get that done, maybe pro bono in our community?
Turn to your Congress people that you elect. That's why we're using them. Tell them to put an injunction on those monies that they sent from Washington, and to make sure that if we don't get ours, nobody else gets it either. So those people you elect, those are the people you ask for a congressional investigation.
Miss Cynthia, I guess what she's asking is, how do you find an attorney like yourself to write the letter, because you have a copy of the letter, Angela, and you just have to find somebody who's passionate about it. I mean, this lady we're up until 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning writing letters. I mean, literally. So she takes her own personal time, gets an hour of sleep. We both do, because I get up at 4 or 5 to make this happen. And so that's why I'm calling for all the civil rights attorneys, any attorneys in any state. You got to get back to make this happen. If you look at her letter, it's not complicated. You got to be a lawyer to write it, by the way. I can't write it. But what I'm saying is, if the right person who's the civil rights attorney follows her guideline, anybody can take this letter and generate it. And send it to their congressman.
Just change my name, change your state, and send it out to your leaders.
Right. We give you permission to. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
absolutely. I don't have any pride in ownership. Take that letter, get it out, but make your congressional elected officials work for you and do their job. So you want them to find that money that they send to Washington from Washington here and find out who's got it and give it to us.
Right. One of our people well, 3 of our people are actually co-sponsors the HR 40, John Lawson, Johanna Hayes, and Delora. So we want to know, if you're so for reparations, where's our money?
That's right. That's right.
I love it, ladies. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm ready to get partnering with my comrades to make something happen.
Thank you.
In California, because of this exchange. I think you guys are doing.
Thank you. And tell your audience we say thank you. We can't see their comments. Thank you for their attention. And please just take action and do whatever they have to do to protect their interests. Thank you.
Sure will.
Take care now. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
I know.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right now, our Black women can do it by putting our foot down and saying it's not going to happen here.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you. There was feedback. I had to drop Antonia so I can hear you. I hear a lot of feedback. But thank you, Ms. Jennings. God bless you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you too. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank your listening audience, your viewing audience as well.
Yes, ma'am. They
all right. Take care now.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye. Okay, ladies and gents. Listen. Over here, my commenters are like my co-hosts, and these are my comrades. So while I understand Antonia Edwards, Miss Antonia Edwards, Freedmen Solidarity, why she really would like to just focus on the issue at hand. This is kind of like the format of the show. And so not everybody has the knowledge of the brilliant, beautiful Miss Antonia Edwards. That's all I was trying to explain. Native American came up in the exchange, and my comrades in the chat are some of the fiercest tribal freedmen I have ever come to learn. And I love them completely. And I love their contribution in the chat, because they don't have to be here. You as a viewing audience don't have to be here. You could choose any other platform to bless with your Sunday evening, but you come here at the Reparationist Perspective to get an understanding of who you are as freed men, women, and children, and what you're due and what you're owed. And I'm here to grow us in support to a critical mass, and that requires my illustrious co-host. So back to what Miss Shirley was sharing, because I might have some comments on what she said. Miss Shirley Huzan and the Native Americans have been compensated in so many ways for that. Even today, there are Blacks who have Native American bloodline in them who aren't getting paid. She's absolutely right about that. She says she's talked to attorneys who work with Native American tribes that have different laws of protections that were allocated to them in the 1800s. That's what I was speaking of, how the Cherokee and Seminole descendants of enslavement have yet to see a dime of those reparations. Those Black descendants of Cherokee and Seminole Indian enslavement have yet to receive the repair. And they're us. They are us. They did the slavery for the Indians who caught us when we were fugitives, and they were allowed to keep us to work the land. And then they, had children with us, and so on and so forth. And many of them are now in Oklahoma still fighting since the 1800s to get the reparations they are owed. And like I said, those Black descendants of Cherokee Indian enslavement, although they can now identify as Cherokee, they've not been paid. She's absolutely right. LD Ward, most of the American Indians are mixed in whites by the Dawes Rolls, $5 Indians who owned our people who are fighting for freedmen rights. Yes, indeed. In effect, instead of giving that money to the descendants of enslavement, they chose to allow white folks to buy our freedmen reparations for $5. And that's what Miss Antonia Edwards was sharing about Elizabeth Warren identifying as one of those whites who descend from that money. So instead of giving it to the Blacks who were enslaved after being caught under the fugitive slave law and being granted us as slaves, they chose to sell it to white people. Okay. LD Ward, economic inclusion. Shirley says, your competitors are the Native Americans because they have been deemed a sovereign nation of people. We need to be deemed a sovereign nation of people and get the same benefits that Native Americans. We want land allocated to our children as well as cash. Absolutely right. Again, Miss Huzar, you're absolutely right. Now, see, Mrs. Powell shared with me that we're actually identified as refugees. So we're entitled to a lot of what this government is giving away in the form of our reparations to the refugees because the language is there. And so a lot of what we're seeking is already there. We don't need a study. We need a study for I want to negotiate from the total cash value owed to us, not from some bargain basement. We're 13%, let's ask for 12 trillion. No, that's not the reparations I'm fighting for. Okay. And so she's absolutely right. It will not just be cash, it will be land. Because they took the land from us illegally and came up ways to legislate us off our lands. You saw the recent Bruce's Beach story where over 100 years have passed since they stole the property by eminent domain to build a park that didn't come until 25 years later. And now the land alone today is worth $72 million. But they are owed for 100 years of being denied the right to have access and to profit off of that aspect of the beach that they owned. And this government paid them, I want to say, $14,000 to get lost. Many of those freedmen are living in destitution now. So this is what needs to happen all over the country. It's not just cash, it's land too that was stolen from us to render us bottom caste in the country our ancestors built with their lives. LD Ward says, the Bureau of Indian Affairs had it sanctioned through the government of then with the Dawes Rolls of whites buying themselves to be $5 Indians, still getting access and casinos and much more. So you see, white folks are still benefiting while Black descendants of Cherokee and Seminole Indian enslavement have yet to see 1 penny of the reparations they are owed since the 1800s. This is very important. Jonathan Bryant, facts, so true. These are new whites. Yes, they are, LD Ward. The immigrants are the new whites because the color of white in this country is green. And since the white race is dying out, they're making immigrants the new people of color and the new Black white oppressors. That's absolutely what they're doing. And they're doing it with our reparations, you see. Yes. Yes, while telling us we can't sue the government, while telling us they don't have the money to repay us. Thomas Kramer says we're owed $6.2 quadrillion at 2 cents an hour from 1776 to 1865 at 6% compound interest. So we're actually owed 6.2 quadrillion on the very low end. While they just keep creating pandemics and all manner of things to extinct us to as few in numbers as the Indians. This is why we fight. We can't give up, in or out. Jonathan says, we are all we got. He ain't never lied. Miss Powell, amen, says, speak. Freedmen troops. That's right. You taught me a lot, Miss Powell, and I thank you for it. Shirley Huzar, I thank you guys for sewing into me and teaching me about what I'm entitled to and what we as a lineage are entitled to as freedmen. LD Ward says Kamala won't be a thought in 2024. I mean, who's seen her? To me, she's hiding, akin to what happened after she couldn't win the presidential bid because she was fourth in California. She went into hiding so that, by the time the Democrats got their plan to partner with her to win the White House, she came out. Now, to me, she's hiding on the important issues again so that she doesn't come under fire about what Biden is doing. His numbers are in the toilet. So she's trying to distance herself in order to be a contender in 2024. But we've got our strategy, family. Red top, blue Congress, until they cut the checks in the quadrillions, and that's going to require us replacing the lanes with full-chested cash reparationists. Najee, I see you, fam. Dim exit. Oh, yes. Well, we need the blue Congress because, sadly, it's a worse oppression under a red Congress because over 50% of freedmen rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. So they're going to need that because without it, that's how our numbers are extincted. You see, they barely have anything now. We're on life support while folks are running around, having their mind stayed on absolutely nothing. We're on life support. We're the ones that are losing, and the news is not going to tell you that. You're only going to see that when you tune into ScrewTube and the new black media. Shelley says, okay, let me keep going. We're almost done, I think. I'm just saying. We must demand tangible, says Najee. You're absolutely right. All of this is being done against the freedmen by the pen. Absolutely right, LD Ward. We've been legislated into the anchor of this Titanic. We are the anchor of capitalism. There is no way that should be happening. And this is where it stops with those of us who are woke. Dr. Lely, Chantel Brown was not the establishment candidate. The Democrat establishment in Ohio backed Nina. Brown won the ADOS vote out of Cleveland. Stop listening to lies. Run me those receipts, Dr. Lely. Nina Turner has not been welcomed by the Democrats since she ran with Bernie Sanders, who was also not welcomed by the Democrats. So if you've got some receipts you'd like to show me, and if you can show me what Chantel Brown has done for ADOS Freedmen in Cleveland, I'm open to having you on the show to talk about how great she's been for Freedmen, ADOS in Cleveland. Okay, I couldn't fully get behind Nina because she couldn't be full-chested about our reparations. But I know Chantel Brown came out of the blue with the Democrats' money to decimate the grassroots efforts in play to put Nina in that seat. That's what I know. So if you've got something different, I'm happy to entertain it. Put it in the chat. And also put Chantel Brown's record of fighting for freedmen. Not black immigrants, not Hispanics. I want to see Chantel Brown's record on fighting for freedmen, women, and children. Run me the receipts. Don't come over here talking about listening to lies. I am not lying because I am politically engaged. LD Ward. True. Freedmen is legislation by the eons of numbers. No other name on Native Black Americans is in legislation but Freedmen. That's what MBAs are lacking, but have to see it full-chested. You're absolutely right. Dr. Lily, Clyburn jumped in when Chantel was already overtaking Nina, and he came at the last minute. She had already established herself without them and pledged to reach across the aisle. Oh, just like he didn't run interference during the primaries in the Carolinas, and then Obama came in at the 11th hour to tell the other Republicans in Democratic clothing to fall on their sword to make way for the author of the crime bill, okay? Jim Crow Sloppy Joe, okay? Segregationist, eulogist, Strom Thurmond's protege, just like that. He came in after she had momentum. Are you serious? Run me the receipts. I want to see it in writing, Dr. Lily. Miss Brown was supported by Hillary Clinton and Jim Clyburn. Thank you, Najee Hall, for getting her all the way together. She must be a Democratic shield. She must be paid. Here she goes. Chantel was not anti-police. How could she be with Cleveland crime in the Black community? So you don't get that crime follows poverty. You don't get the war on poverty created Black on Black crime and murder. Yeah, you're a shield and you're trolling me. I'm clear about it now. Not until she took over Nina. She was winning without their support. They jumped in to back what was clearly going to be the winner over Nina in that local race. Run me the receipts. Run me the receipts that Chantel Brown did not come out of the blue with the support of Crooked Hillary and Coon Clyburn. Run me the receipts and run me her records where Freedmen are concerned. LD Ward, the only reason that Freedmen and Indian tribes are fighting for recognition is because of Freedmen who fought the Civil War and using what our lineage did for the Freedmen's laws. Byron Allen is one. Najee says, Miss Brown won the suburban white vote, which put her over in the end. And let me take a breath on Najee's comment. And how did she win the suburban white vote? Because of the Democrats pouring money into her to make her relevant so that she could kill the progressive in the same way Coon Clyburn interfered in the primaries to win Biden, the Carolinas, South Carolina, and Obama came in and had the rest fall on their sword. That's how they play. Downright dirty. Okay. Dr. Lily, I was at the town hall meetings and Nina had all the white liberal support in a big babblehead van with her head as the image on them. It was an arrogant turnoff to many of us. Dr. Lily, whatever, she won the Black Cleveland vote. If she won white suburban votes, it was because she was for police reform, not the abolishing of the police and making us vulnerable to crime. How about we fight instead for an American wage for Freedmen instead of funding the police? How about we fight for education in our communities for Freedmen instead of the preschool to prison pipeline? Huh? How about we fight for them not to be redlined into environmentally racist communities and tenement housing with lead in the water, lead in the paint, hookworm, all manner of cancer-laden issues in our communities, which is why we're dying disproportionately from COVID. Of course, the white folks are going to want protection from what they've created. by robbing and pillaging and having a war on poverty in Black communities to gentrify us out and to extinct us to as few in numbers as the Indians. How about that, Miss Chantel Brown? Instead of being about more funding for the police to put their oppressive boots on our necks. How about more home ownership in our communities with an American way? How about more business ownership in our communities? You don't think Black on Black crime and murder would disappear if they weren't constantly robbing and pillaging our communities to justify whiteness taking over our communities and immigrants taking over our communities to treat us like the POC, white oppressors they are. What's up, Tanya? That is facts. Captain John Wofford is my grandfather. Thomas Jefferson is my uncle. She is not lying. I don't know what that's in comment to. This is why we must first agree on the legal recognition of freedmen. Freedmen is our historical and legislative identification in the USA. Come with it, Miss Powell. Come through. Shirley says the word sovereign nation of PIZ, of people. We need to be sovereign. I want out of this hell. Dr. Lily, we should take anybody's money who will help pro-reparations candidate win. We need to run ADOS Republican and Democratic candidates. Everybody does that but us. What Republicans do you know that support reparations for freedmen? Put it in the chat. Raji Hall, Miss Turner is for defunding the police, not abolishing. The goal is to reimagine how police are utilized and to put the money in our communities so that we can own our communities instead of being gentrified out of them. Dr. Lily, preach, sis. We on that black agenda only. Oh, me and Dr. Lily, we agree on this one. Oh, absolutely. I'm Freedman all the way to my last breath. Tanya says a lot of us are indigenous. Okay, but I'm fighting for reparations for those of us who descend from heinous chattel slavery. Those of us whose ancestors built the wealth the immigrants and white folks eat from, that the white folks killed and stole from our people. That's what I'm in here for. If you're indigenous and that's not your reality, that's not my fight. You go fight for your people, I'm fighting for mine. Dr. Lily, Shirley is politically wishy-washy. She used to be a staunch Republican sycophant. Please. Shirley is still a Republican. And please don't disparage her. She is very insightful, very knowledgeable. And I've seen her in this fight. This is my first introduction to you, Dr. Lily. I agree with the sister in the hat. Sorry, I don't know her name. That is Antonia Edwards. And like I said, on this show, you guys are my co-hosts as long as you keep it respectful. And we get to have an exchange. I'm animated. I'm a drama queen, but you know, it is what it is. Dr. Lily, they are using the same strategy with ADOS as they did with Native Indians. Take out their men first, then their sons, then they are only left with the weak. Dr. Lily, you done scored 2 points with me so far. We get no stride. We find some common ground. You were scaring me for a minute. I thought you were a troll. But with that comment, I'm just looking at you through one eye right now. Instead of like this, okay? I done put this hand down. Don't disappoint me. Patricia Woodard says, we have no allies. We are all we got. Welcome, love. You right. I agree with sis in the hat. Okay. Tanya says, natives were never 100%. America was a black nation. They too are wearing a coat. Sister, I've heard this by many people, and I believe it. I believe that they were made native to wipe out and whitewash our history. But if they don't descend from chattel slavery, it's not my monkey, not my circus. Dr. Lee, NA ain't fighting for us. That's right. They copy our movement with the American Indian movement. Talking about them is a distraction. Well, Dr. Lee, like I said, Miss Shirley Huzar was speaking in context to what had already happened at the show. You may need to rewind it. But people like like she should be a doctor, Shirley Huzar, any of my comrades who have something to say, they come, they support the show, And so therefore I read their comments. Okay. So it's not a distraction to teach the people that watch my show and to teach the world what was done to us over here. As enlightened as Miss Antonia Edwards is, not everybody knows this history. So this is kind of part and parcel of all those things combined. So I beg your patience. Okay, Dr. Lily, this just got half of Oklahoma back by the Supreme. They just got half of Oklahoma back by the Supreme Court this year. Period, hat sister. Let it go, Angela. No, I'm not. Tanya, a lot of us clearly do not know what happened here. Thank you, Tanya. I don't know why they want me to not talk about it. LD Ward, exactly. Stay in touch. Freedmen Unite. Tanya, just this conversation alone lets me know we need deeper truth history lessons. Thank you, Tanya. That's to my point. I know that Dr. Lily and Antonia would rather I drop it, but no, it's an educational. This is a part of the education. When you know your history, you're not bound to repeat it, is the prayer. And I want the nation and the world. Anyone watching this live or the archive will absolutely know what happened here. And they deserve to know, and we deserve to teach it, as well as my co-host. LD Ward, $5 Indian dolls rolls is whites all day. What are their Twitter handles? Dr. Lily, I didn't get that. But if you Gmail me at thereperspect@gmail.com, I'll put you in touch with the ladies. LD Ward, they're bringing up the Freedmen laws. Absolutely. LD Ward, so are the immigrants. Everybody's weaponizing what was rightfully ours but us. And that's why I'm going to be in talks with Miss Cynthia and Miss Antonia about how we can also, in tandem while we're fighting for reparations, fight for more immediate relief, especially that $500,000 per freedman. That needs to happen yesterday. Since they don't put that out there, that needs to happen yesterday. So we need to be fighting all these fights. We need all hands on deck. If you like to get in this fight, please Gmail me at thereperspect@gmail.com, thereperspect@gmail.com. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Thank you, family. Shirley Huzar says, good show. Thank you. Catalan M, I see you, fam. Great broadcast. I appreciate your love. Thank you for being here. Don Cheeto is Chickasaw Freedman, says LD Ward. Catalan M, Shirley, your last broadcast was informative as well. Right. Shirley, if you want to, you can paste your last broadcast in the chat below. I love to get people watching each other. This is the way we are victorious through these social media streets. Shirley says, preach. Tanya says, even that is not the entire story. No, ma'am, that's just the cliff notes, fam. Thank you, Catalan M. Keep watching, Shirley Huzard. Dr. Lily, Warren has no NA Native American ancestry. The B is lying. Of course, none of them do. They were able to buy our reparations for $5 while our descendants of Cherokee and Seminole enslavement are still waiting for even a penny. They get none of that aid. It's criminal what's happened to us on every front. LD Ward, we have no choice. Dr. Lily, we should get more than Native Americans. They chose sovereignty and treaties. We're not refugees, we are citizens. They were not citizens until 1924 because they couldn't make it without federal government support. Wow, Dr. Lily, that's new information. Well, if you look up the records, and maybe Miss Powell is still here, we are labeled refugees. And I'm saying, let's run with it, because they sure just gave African refugees $6.2 billion with a B to resettle in our communities and take it over with small businesses in the whole 9 yards to push us into more extinction. It's happening right now, but you won't see it on CNN. Tanya says they took land that we had been on for centuries. Yes, ma'am, and it's all due back. Native Americans did not generate the U.S. wealth. We did. You're comparing apples and oranges. Okay, I don't know who that comment's for. I've never said Native Americans generated the U.S. wealth. I'm real clear that it was our ancestors who generated the wealth that immigrants and white folks eat from, and that the Native Americans enslaved us. So I don't know who said the Native Americans generated the U.S. wealth. It didn't come out of my mouth. It never will. LD Ward, for real, and Dr. Lily, true that. Tanya says 5 million of them, 4 million of them who were here first. Us. Okay. So Tanya's saying that there were 4 to 5 million blacks who were in Africans, or listen, they may be native to the land. I don't know. 4 to 5 million of them were here first. Okay, that is great. Worried about the Travis Scott concert. LD Ward, please. He's being silly. Too many are worried about the Travis Scott concert. I'm going to do a whole nother live on that, because I don't understand why black folks allow their kids to go around white folks in the hundreds of thousands, or sleep at their houses, or go to their colleges in white towns. I don't understand. This is racking my head. So I have to do a whole nother video about the devil worship of Travis Scott. Okay, because that's absolutely what it looked like. The pit of hell. We'll show it. But yeah, it ain't people lost their lives. Why are black folks there raging? Why are black folks at a rage concert? Why is Travis Scott? He looks like Freedmen. I don't know. He could be black immigrant, you know, the way they collapse everything on purpose to mask their failures by the very descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. That's why they flatten blackness. So I don't know what he descends from exactly, but I do know that what I bore witness to, with 8 people dying in that travesty, was absolute devil worship. I mean, and he kept going, but we're going to get into that on another show. China says 40 million of us. That's right. Well, for me, I meant to dig into that the last with Miss Jennings and Miss Edwards on my show. It doesn't matter how many of us are here. If we're neutralized economically and we have been legislated to the bottom of the Titanic as its anchor, this is why the white folks are giving away our reparations and making these other groups white to continue in the oppression. The only way in this country is to be poor so they can make you rich with our reparations. There's 2 ways. You come in with money already. You come in with money and then you're made white if you've got the complexion for that protection, which we don't. Okay? So you come in like Cuba. You come in and then you're made white because you already come from money. And you're made white and then you vote on the lines of Republicans. Okay? Or on the Democratic side, you see, both sides are working to suppress our vote. That's why I tell you, don't suppress your vote. Play chess with your vote. Right now, there's a blue top that we can't get rid of. Vote red Congress or stay home during midterms. That'll make way for a red Congress if we stay home. Or vote anybody but the Democrats in the Congress. You see, they will not change unless we make them pay. Okay. Oh, I lost a brilliant train of thought that I had going. I talk too much. Okay. So I was talking about how, the ways to get into this country. You either come for money and you come to this country, or the way the Democrats are neutralizing us in the vote is to flood the country with poor illegals. You know, like giving $450,000. Listen to this, family. Oh my God, this show is way too long. I'm so sorry, family. I'm gonna do this on a separate show. But this is what is this? CBS, NBC. Some migrants now sending their kids across the border alone, so the kids won't be expelled, say lawyers. Currently, the Biden administration is expelling all new asylum seekers arriving in the U.S., citing COVID precautions, except the children who arrive alone. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This, and that's going to be a separate show. This is what I'm talking about. These Democrats create the problem and they want our reparations to be the solution. You literally just heard me tell you when I was explaining earlier in the segment, how these Mexicans are allowing their children to walk over the borders alone. And then they make a case with the ACLU to sue the federal government, talking about how they've been separated from their children. So this is the plan, is to neutralize our vote. They're fighting to give illegals everything we've got. The vote, the right to drive, jobs. Oh, shoot. What happened? I skipped over. Sorry, family. I disappeared for a second. Jobs, the whole 9 yards. That's what the Democrats do. Since neutralizing us economically, now they're coming for the vote. Why is that? Because we are waking up, and you've got people like TRP, Angela Nirvana, the Reparations perspective, teaching you to play chess with your vote. Because these Latinas will be Democrats as long as they're poor, because they want all the legislation to make them legal. So they'll vote down those lines, but the minute they start to make money, they cross over. So there are two ways. Either way, you have to hate Black folks. If you don't hate us, you've got to be willing to keep the white oppressive boot on our necks. And the way you do that is to price us out of everything, is to weaponize our affirmative action against us to get employment over us, is to fire all of us in management that can do anything to hire freedmen. Okay? So these are the ways they are complicit. And that's why I couldn't agree with Ms. Jennings about some kumbaya moment with these immigrants who are hell-bent on replacing us. These are our replacements. Dr. Claude Anderson's been telling us for 30 years. And so it's up to us to wake up and get politically engaged and push back with a strategy akin to the Latinas. If they are, but not the same, right? Because 90% of us share less than 700 billion. A trifecta of either party is our death knell. So we've got to do, as Dr. Charles Morris recommended, shut it down. Stagnation, stratification. Shut it down. That's what we've got to do. And that's it, and that's all. And you just hold your nose. You can vote anyone. You don't even have to vote red to make it happen. Anyone. So in 2022, you can stay home. You can vote anyone into Congress, but no blue. You can vote red. Because we can't change the top of the ticket. When 2024 comes in, we've got to lean into red top, blue Congress until times get better for freedmen. Until we can replace the lanes with full-chested cash reparationists that cut the checks in the quadrillions over multiple generations. No, this ain't the Japanese internment. You will not be able to cut a check for $20,000, especially when you're about to give illegals $450,000 per person. You make a family of four an instant millionaire. But all they're going to do is live the high life here and then send the money back home to live the high life there. They've got dual citizenship. We do not. So no, it won't be no one check and done. That's not what we're fighting for. If it took you 500 years to drive us here, it's going to take at least that long to pull us out. This will be into perpetuity, given that the racism in this country is never changing. Okay? LD Moore says, I saw that at Angela about Nina. Oh, yeah. Get the lights up at least. You know it. Thank you, fam. Let me put that on here. Thank you, guys. Get the lights up. Share, share, share. Preach. Dr. Lily, sis, please do your own research. Oh, no. I don't need to do my own research. I'm up on game. I've done my research. I know what goes on in these political streets. I'm telling you to research it. I'm telling you to run me the data. That's all. I didn't tell you to go research. You clearly know you speak in full chest about the issue. And I clearly know what I know. So if you've got something in opposition to what I'm talking about, Chantel Brown, then you present it here. Don't tell me to go do no research. I'm up on it. How Chantel, you can see how Chantel was losing to Nina, who had all the George Soros leftist money. I also can't drop links in your chat because I don't have a wrench. Stop it. Excuse me. I don't know what a wrench is. Is that making somebody? I've seen people copy and paste. You can't copy a link and paste it here. I don't know about a wrench. I think you mean making you a moderator, a mod. I don't know. Listen, just type the link. Just type it if you can't copy and paste it. Just tell me where to find it. Chantel, let me tell you something. Nina didn't have no George Soros money. They threw Chantel in there to stop Nina because she works for the lefties. You just heard Najee share how the white suburbia delivered Chantel. All I'm asking you is to type what she has done for Freedmen. You should know because you're riding hard for a woman I know has not done a damn thing for Freedmen. Ever. So I know this to be so. I'm saying if you got something in opposition, run it in here. You can type. You clearly can type. I said what I said. They came in the last hour to beat Youngkin, and it didn't work. Excuse me. That wasn't the 11th hour. Youngkin won because of these vaccine mandates that are absolutely killing us in the workforce. I mean, yeah, McAuliffe is a racist, just like Youngkin. No different. But these vaccine mandates have made white folks mad. That's why Youngkin won. Okay, these vaccine mandates. When these folks with the jab are having breakthrough and spreading the virus while they want to sit up here and blame us, the unvaccinated. Whatever. Nina replaced Marsha Fudge and was her protege. I know that. Y'all don't even live here. I know what the hell I saw and heard. I didn't say you didn't know. I'm asking you to put in the chat how Chantel beat Nina by doing a damn thing for Freedmen. That's all I'm asking. What has she done for Freedmen? Because as far as I know, the left and black folks were voting for Nina, and the suburban white folks came out with that Democratic money because they believe in police instead of making us whole with our reparations. And that's how Chantel won. Now, if I want to see why you think she's the rightful winner, anybody can win when they're backed by the Democrats. Nina was not backed by Soros money no more than Bernie Sanders was. Nina was backed by the grassroots money, the poor people's money, not Soros. And if you got something different, I'm saying type the link. If you can't copy and paste, type it. And type me what Chantel has done for Freedmen, ever. Even though she is one. LD Ward, need to deconfederate USA for real, for real. Yes. Education is a key word, says Terry Lewis. We need more of that. Where is it? Yes, indeed. Well, I'm doing my best over here. No, the defund the police message did not hit in Cleveland. Of course not. But Nina was for defund the police, and she comes. I mean, I think her husband or her son or somebody was a policeman. But she understands that the police are protected by qualified immunity. They're allowed to come into our communities and kill us by state sanction and never get indicted and never go to jail if they get indicted. Najee says, Dr. Lily, I'm a resident of Cleveland as well. She says, wrong, you're just talking and emotional. Oh, I'm very emotional when it comes to Freedmen. No doubt about that. But I'm not wrong. And like I said, you have yet to put anything in the chat to show me otherwise. I'll acquiesce if you can show me. LD Ward, redlining was created by the U.S. government of the 30s. No, you're wrong. I'm done talking to you. You are poorly informed. Goodbye. Good riddance. Bye, Dr. Lily. See, she ruined it. Tanya says, say that, and that is what they don't want. We were enslaved on our own land. I see 3 racially aggravated hashtag race code class, big black by black, black bank for reparations, organizing for reparations, reparations shares, reparations Masons, Black National Party, racial session. I see you, fam. Well, thank you, Dr. Lily. She says she watches me all the time and shares my videos. Then I don't know why we're fighting right now. Thank you. They sacrifice their own children. That money is going to those ACLU lawyers who are largely Hispanic Latinas, says Dr. Lily. They are not to be trusted either because they went to court to use our birthright citizenship for illegals. Me and Dr. Lily, it's a back and forth love affair. Akil, welcome. Only 12 people watching. Give it up to Nirvana. You better off preaching at a church. Oh, never, my friend. I'm never giving up. Hey, we can't see everybody who's watching because it doesn't show the people in Facebook and it doesn't show the people in Twitter. I will never give up fighting for the repair of Freedmen, Mr. Akil or Miss Akil. Dr. Lily, the Hispanic law professor Laura Gomez out of UCLA, could be behind this thing with the $450K because she backs reparations for Hispanics. Look her up. Youngkin won because he got a 16% black vote. Oh, well, you know, that's probably because those blacks were against a vaccine mandate that's costing them their jobs. But anywho, please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I'll be back. I don't know about if I can come back tonight. This was, oh my God, a 2-hour segment. I surely didn't mean to go this long. But I thank you guys so very much for being here. I thank you, co-host in the chat. And I look forward the next time we have an exchange. I'll continue to do this until they cut the checks in the quadrillions over multi-generations. And guess what else? I'll be here thereafter to protect those quadrillions, to guarantee that it goes exclusively to freed men, women, and children. And with that being said, family, I want to pray over us that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever freedmen and its allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until tomorrow or whenever I can come back, family, know that I love you black. I love you so strong. And I'm bidding you a blessed, beautiful rest of your evening. Stay tuned for the extraordinary outro, fam. Peace, family.